Hello, I'm Donovan. I wanted to take a couple of minutes to introduce you to my project, Almost 22. Almost 22 is a movie that I'm hoping to fund through Indiegogo. It's a movie about EMS provider and veteran suicide risk. What I would like to do, this is a work of fiction, first of all. It is based on some of my own experiences as a combat vet of the U.S. military and as a paramedic. But it is not my story. It is a collection of stories, all of which are oriented on the culture that exists not just in the military, not just in the veteran community, not just in EMS, first responder communities, but in our nation as a whole, it seems. We view the people who do things like get depressed as simple, weak-minded humans. And the fact of the matter is that this is not at all the case. Some of the most mentally strong people that I have ever met in my life were, at one point or another, depressed, and some of them depressed enough to attempt, and in a couple of cases succeed, in taking their own lives. We have a culture in the United States right now, at least in many parts of it, that tell us that people who are depressed are just going through a phase. And the truth of the matter is that that's not how it works. So what Almost 22 is, what I intend to do with it is to use it as a vehicle to cast a light, to paraphrase from Streetcar Named Desire, to cast a light on something that has always been completely shadowed. The scourge of suicide attempts by veterans and EMS providers is real. It is humans who are having a struggle with things that are not at all within the realm of normal human experience for most people. Most people don't ever have to deal with the loss of a 4-year-old. Average everyday person does not run out of their house, hop in their car, and then tear off into traffic because the lady in the ceiling, the dispatcher, told you that there was a 4-year-old that their mother pulled out of the family pool. And when you get to their house, you do CPR and you defibrillate and you do start IVs or IOs, and you start doing things like pushing medications and trying to do trying to intubate and do these other things that are all part of the process of trying to save a 4-year-old child's life, and then they don't make it. And even though you're the paramedic that transported the child, and you know in your mind, you know that intellectually you did everything that there was possible that you could have done, and that you realize that sometimes that even though you're a paramedic and 4-year-old kids shouldn't drown, sometimes they do, and it's not your fault, but you still replay it in your mind every night before you go to sleep for years. What I want to do with this movie is to cast a light on those things, cast a light on the mindset, not just for the friends and families, people who have friends and families, or who are the friends and families of, or coworkers of people who are potentially at risk for committing suicide, but also the people themselves. A lot of people who have run through this, I know, having done it myself, go through the mental aspect of saying to yourself, I'm alone. I'm the only person who thinks these thoughts. And to some more or less degree, that is true. You are the only person that has your thoughts. But you're not the only person that has those kinds of thoughts. You're not the only person that struggles. And I want to try to use this as a vehicle to reach out to people who are at risk, and to reach out to people who are around those people who might be at risk, to sort of put them together, give those people who are at risk a voice and a vision that they can see that they aren't alone and that it is okay for them to reach out. And on the other side, change the perception of who these people are. These are your every single day police officers, paramedics, firefighters, EMTs, and military veterans, who all of whom are really super strong people mentally, and occasionally have issues that with things that haunt them and bother them. So why am I using Indiegogo? I mean, first of all, because I don't have the bankroll myself to just pay for it. If I could do that, I wouldn't be looking for help at all, I don't think. Also, I would also like for this to continue to be an independent project, because I think that's the only way I'm really going to be able to get the kind of voice out that I'm looking to project. At the same time, there are some things that I think will help. I have my iPhone. It's theoretically possible for me to use my iPhone SE to film this video in its entirety and put out a decent product. I'd like to get the production value for it up a little higher. First of all, I'd like to have better sound. So this is what I'm hoping to fund with this Indiegogo project. I'm hoping to fund a camera stabilizer specifically for the iPhone. I do have a tripod that I can use for still shots, but it will be tremendously helpful to have stabilization for it for close-in shots or for moving shots, trucks, dolly type shots, things like that. Sound. The sound on the iPhone, just like it is on all phones, is oriented almost exclusively on picking up the sounds of people who are talking on the telephone. And it's a fine microphone for that. That's not going to cut it in the world of audio for a film, even an independent small film. This is really something that I would need to upgrade significantly to give it the kind of production quality that I think it deserves. And of course, the whole outset of this entire arc here is to put out the best produced project that I can, because the better produced it is, I think the better the quality is, then the more chances that people will watch it, people will see and learn from it, and will gain the insight that I'm hoping I can project with this film. Sound upgrades, camera improvements. Specifically, the camera on the iPhone SE is fine. It's 12 megapixel camera. It can do, based on what I've seen with this Filmic app that I bought to as part of the process of learning how to do this. We'll talk about that in a second. Is that it has a much higher quality camera than a lot of people may believe. It's a 12 megapixel camera, but it will shoot 4K video at 100 megabits per second and is awesome. Camera improvements, though, include things like Moondog Labs for the film Tangerine, which was shot on 3 iPhone 5S's. They used camera stabilizers, the ones that some ones similar to that I had talked about earlier, but also used this project from Moondog Labs called it's called the anamorphic lens, and it's a 1.33 anamorphic lens adapter that just basically snaps over the lens for the iPhone, the 5, the 5S, the SE, and increases its increases the space from which it can collect information. And lighting, professional lighting, better lighting. I mean, this is my home office right here, so the lighting that you get in here is what I used to work with most of the time. But some other things would include possibly looking into getting additional cameras. At least one, if possible. I'd like to grab a camcorder. There's a Canon DV camcorder that does a very good job. It was highly rated by the Video Maker website. Also, some music and sound licensing. There's a couple of commercially released songs, like radio type songs, that I'd love to be able to get licensing for, to include them, because I have a couple of scenes in my head where one of the protagonists, there really is one main protagonist and a couple of his friends, his partner on the ambulance, and then a couple of firefighters and another police officer, one of whom is married to, I think, one of the firefighters, and I'm not absolutely sure I'm going to use that line yet, but anyway, where one of the protagonists in the story is going home from a really bad shift, and they hear a song on the radio and they start singing to it and they break down in the car, and that's part of the process of learning how to deal with some of the things that go on. But I'd like to be able to license the song so that they can sing it in the car. If not, it's not a huge loss, but that would be something that I would love to be able to do. And also, there's music libraries, sound libraries. There are royalty-free ones that are available, and there are a couple that I've used in other projects that are awesome. I'd love to be able to license music specifically for this project, which of course would require licensing fees and for me to communicate with the rights owners to create a good product, so that we can get good music and sound effects for it. So a couple of things. What is my background here? Why am I a good choice to do this? I'm a military veteran, combat veteran from Desert Shield and Desert Storm, and I was a paramedic and an EMT together, EMT first and paramedic later, for almost 8 years. And I've seen firsthand how really brutal this aspect of military veteranship and EMS can be. How hard it can be to work in and live in the communities of both combat veterans and EMS first responders, and be depressed, have depression. I did suffer for quite a long time from various depressions. I also had some incidents that happened when I was a child that caused some pretty rough trauma. I don't want to go into it, but so there's several aspects of my own life that are reflected in this movie. This is not an autobiography. I am not making a memoir here. This is going to be a fictional piece based on my own experience with depression, PTSD, and suicide and suicidal ideations, both in my own life and in the lives of people who have been that I have been around. In addition, feedback and input from some other friends of mine who have worked in first responder capacities or are military veterans who have also had or have been around people who have had similar experiences. So I know firsthand, literally from the inside, what it feels like to be that person. I've also had the experience of being the person who reaches out to someone else to try to talk them out of killing themselves. That's happened. So I have some personal experience on both sides of that equation. What I don't have is film experience. This is literally the first time I've ever tried to write a screenplay is this movie right here. This is going to be the first time I've ever tried to really shoot a film of any kind. I have done some video editing in the past, and so that part of it is something I'm comfortable with. Relatively good with software anyway. I worked in IT for several years before I went into EMS. Familiar with it, I deal well with it, but the truth of the matter is that I don't have any experience with filmmaking. I don't have really any experience with script writing. What I'm looking to do here is reach out to people that are affected by or have been around people with suicidal ideations and would like to help cast that light on those things that have been forever in shadow. Let's get some of this understanding out there so people don't feel weak for reaching out for help, because it's not a weakness. People who don't feel like they have to give people who are feeling depressed and suicidal a hard time. Teaching people how to talk to suicidal people, teaching people how to deal with friends and family members who might be suicidal, and give them hope on both sides. The people who feel bad, people who live with and work with them as well. So let's work together to try to make that a reality. I would love to have your support to fund this project and pick some of these items up so that I can get this done the right way. If not, I hope you'll at least be moved enough by the idea that you'll share it with other people. If you don't think that it's a good idea, don't contribute. If you don't think that it's something that, if you think the risk is too high, that's fine. I dig that, really. You should feel comfortable with what's going on. I hope that you do feel comfortable. If you do, there's a link I'm going to show you in the video here that will give you a place to click. Of course, the YouTube version of this video will have links in the description that you can use to contribute to this project. There will also be links there directly to either the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, 1-800-273-8255, which is 800-273-TALK, T-A-L-K. Hopefully that will inspire you to help me to get this project done. If not, hopefully it will inspire you to share with others who might be willing to help me get this project done. And whether you do or don't, if you feel suicidal, talk to your friends. If you have friends or coworkers who seem suicidal, talk to them. Thank you, and thank you for your support.